mindful driving. I'll be your facilitator for today's session. My name is Adrienne Allam. In 18 years working in health and safety and in various sectors throughout my career and personally, I've driven on busy city streets, highways, bush roads, middle of nowhere, through extreme weather conditions, washouts, avalanche areas, construction zones, through congested traffic. The list just goes on and on. When I started driving, there were no cell phones. We actually had to wait till we got home to make plans or to chat with someone. Wow, times have changed. Throughout my career, I have completed specialized driver training. Smith System, Mission Impossible at Work, company-sponsored training, and most recently, Skid School. Most importantly, though, I'm focused on and dedicated to being a mindful driver, and that's the topic of today's session. A little bit about Workplace Safety North, an independent non-for-profit organization. Workplace Safety North is one of 4 sector-based health and safety associations in Ontario. We provide province-wide ministry-approved workplace health and safety training and services to the mining and forest products industries. We also serve many businesses across Northern Ontario. Our vision is every worker home safe. To serve our diverse clientele, we travel many roads. Driving is one of the biggest hazards that we face. Our specialists are well-traveled. Workplace Safety North as an organization is committed to the well-being of its workers. We take part in driver training. Our vehicles undergo annual safety checks. We're equipped with emergency response equipment and check-in devices, and policies and procedures are certainly in place. None of this, however, makes us immune from distractions or at-risk situations. Our mind matters. In today's session, we're going to dissect distracted driving. We're going to talk about distraction statistics, penalties. We're going to talk about our attitudes, our behaviors, our beliefs, and making safe choices. And throughout the session, we'll share mindful driving tips with you. We're not going to differentiate between work or driving personally. Distracted driving affects all of us. If you're not distracted, the other person just might be. And it could be when you're driving a company vehicle, or it could be when you're driving your own vehicle. The session today is about drivers and distractions. So what is distracted driving? Anything that takes your full attention away from the task of driving can be considered a distraction. In general, there are 3 types of distractions: visual, manual, and cognitive. This isn't new information. We know this, but I'd like you to ask yourself, ponder this for a second. Do you consider driving a task? A task with lots of hazards. Think about those hazards, folks. Pedestrians, other traffic, road conditions, weather changes, animals, passengers. Sitting beside you could be in the back seat. Well, Ontario's distracted driving laws do not apply to all distractions. They do apply to the use of handheld communication and entertainment devices and certain display screens. There are certain occupational exemptions under the Highway Traffic Act. While you're driving, it's illegal to use your phone or other handheld wireless communication device to text or to dial. You can only touch these devices to call 911 in an emergency situation. It's illegal to use a handheld electronic entertainment device such as a tablet or a portable gaming console. It's also illegal to view display screens unrelated to driving, such as watching a video or programming a GPS device, except by voice command. What about those other actions? Other actions such as eating, drinking, grooming, smoking, reading, reaching for a dropped object. Well, these aren't part of Ontario's distracted driving laws, but they are still distractions that can cause a collision, and the driver could be charged with careless or dangerous driving if they cause an accident while performing any one of these activities. You are allowed to use hands-free wireless communication devices with an earpiece, lapel button, or Bluetooth. You can also view your GPS display screen as long as it's built into your vehicle dashboard or securely mounted on the dashboard. I want you to remember, although not illegal, these are still distractions. These devices can still affect your focus on driving. Let's talk a little bit more about visual distractions. These are the distractions that take the driver's focus and eyes off the road, even if it's just for one split second. Perhaps you're looking at a phone to view a new text message, or you want to see who's calling. Maybe you're looking outside when there might be a distraction on the side of the road, or you could be looking at the person right beside you. Where do your eyes need to be? A driver needs to be looking straight ahead the road as far as possible. Let's put this into perspective. If you're driving on a city street and you're driving in a congested area, you need to be looking about 12 to 15 seconds ahead. That's about one city block at low speeds. If you're driving on the highway in an uncongested area, you need to be looking about a quarter mile, 0.40 kilometers, quarter mile ahead. And this is if you're driving about 90 kilometers per hour. By looking as far ahead as possible, you'll notice the potential hazards ahead of time. When you notice those hazards, you're going to be prepared to react. You're also going to notice that your driving is smoother and you'll be applying your brakes less often. Manual distractions, and there's lots of good pictures there, but it's all too easy to be inattentive at the wheel. We can easily become distracted. There's drive-through restaurants. They encourage us to keep up with the demands of fast-paced life. They're convenient. We can eat on the run. We can have a coffee while we're driving. We can eat a donut. We can grab a burger or fries. Well, eating while driving. If a driver is eating while driving, they're 3 times more likely to crash when they eat and drive. And those same statistics on distracted driving apply to soft drinks and coffee because they tend to divert the driver's attention away from the road, where the driver's attention needs to be. Well, if you decide to reach for an object, well, this increases the driver's chance of a car crash by about 8 times. Have you ever caught yourself glancing, checking your rearview mirror, and all of a sudden you find that you're no longer looking at the vehicles behind you? You're glancing at yourself, and suddenly you're fluffing or fixing your hair. You're admiring that great person looking back at you in the mirror. Well, where do your driver's hands need to be? Well, both hands need to be on the wheel, my friends. They need to be properly positioned at 9 and 3. Or you could liken it to a clock, and this is a quarter to 3. Why do they need to be at 9 or 3? Well, there are 2 reasons. First, it allows you to move the wheel maximally in either direction without having to reposition your hands. And secondly, it gives you the most leverage and therefore the most control over the wheel should you have to respond. Some of us have been driving for a long time. Well, prior to 1990, those of us who were driving, we were taught to hold the steering wheel at 10 and 2. Then along came those airbags. This changed the correct hand position on the wheel for obvious safety reasons. If the airbag deployed and your hands are at 10 and 2, you could just suffer broken bones, or your hands could hit you in the face and cause injury. Keeping 2 hands on the wheel is the only way you can be ready to properly react. You might have to swerve, change lane positions, or turn unexpectedly to avoid a collision. You can choose to drive with 1 hand on the wheel, but you do need to know that when you're doing this, you're putting yourself and others at risk around you. Let's talk about cognitive distractions. These are the distractions that keep your mind from focusing on that task of driving. You could be thinking about an issue, daydreaming, maybe a child's crying in the back seat. Maybe you're rocking on to loud music. You could be talking to someone else in the vehicle or using your phone. Something else could capture your attention, or you're having trouble just concentrating on the road. I want to talk to you a little bit about emotions. Have you ever thought to yourself as you're driving, I'm late, and you're talking to another driver who can't hear you, by the way. I'm late. Would you learn how to drive and get a move on? Where'd you get your license? Where'd you learn to drive? Did you get your license from a Cracker Jack box? Get off the road. Have you ever noticed that anybody driving slower than you is an idiot? And anyone driving faster than you is a maniac? Have you ever said, it's not my driving I worry about, it's the other person's? Or have you ever noticed those communication strategies you're using while driving? Do you ever find yourself using obscene gestures or otherwise communicating angrily at another driver? We can call this flipping the bird while driving in traffic, or yelling or cursing at another motorist. Oh, that feeling of anger, frustration, rage building up. Well, according to Globe and Mail report, 1 in 3 Canadians, folks, 1 in 3 admit to suffering some form of road rage each month. And to share a recent example with you, here's a report from the Canadian Press, and this report was first published on January 23rd of this year. The location was in Brampton, Ontario. A man is suffering from what police call life-altering injuries after an alleged road rage incident west of Toronto. Peel Regional Police say they were called to a report of an assault shortly before 7 a.m. Constable Heather Cannon says there was an altercation between two drivers. She says one driver got out of his car while the other man allegedly hit him with his vehicle and drove off. Police say the man was taken to hospital with serious injuries, but is expected to survive. A suspect was taken into custody shortly after the alleged incident, and at the time of the report, there were no word on charges. When your cognitive ability is affected by emotions, this can be a very dangerous or serious distraction. When this happens to you, or if you find this happening to you, find a safe place. Pull over. It's time to regain your composure. Take a few deep breaths. Avoid those hand gestures or other angry communication gestures while you're out there driving. You may even try to use empathy towards the other driver. Pose the question, wow, he or she might be having a really terrible day. Remember, folks, when you're driving, where your mind needs to be, it needs to be on the task of driving. I'll talk to you a little bit more about another type of cognitive distraction, and this is fatigue, dozy driving, falling asleep. Well, prolonged periods of driving can cause us to have mental and physical functional impairment. Our concentration and alertness can be diminished, and our reaction times may be slower. We've all seen those signs. We know fatigue kills, so take a break. Also, it's really important to be mindful that certain medications and health issues can affect the ability to drive. Make sure that you're aware and take measures to protect yourself and others. So before we move on, I'm just going to ask one of our panelists this morning, and we have Gabby joining us as a panelist. We're going to ask Gabby, what involves all three distractions? We've talked about manual, cognitive, visual. What involves all three distractions?
I would say texting while driving.
Gabby, you're right on. So let's take a look at this. This is a most dangerous choice, folks. Texting while driving is a dangerous habit because it presents all three distractions visually as you look at your phone rather than the road and the cars around you. Manually as you type your messages rather than keep your hands on the wheel, ready to react. And cognitively as you concentrate on your conversation rather than the situation that might be unfolding right in front of you in your driving environment. And you might ask yourself, well, is talking on the phone and talking to a passenger the same thing? Well, not quite. Because although the passenger may be a distraction, they can also play a different role. They can also help you keep your eyes on the road. And unlike cell phone callers, those passengers will instinctively stop talking when driving conditions change. They can help you navigate, and they can also be an extra set of eyes and assist you with identifying those driving hazards. Think about this it only takes 5 seconds, and you see this picture of a large football field. Well, folks, when you read or send a text and you take your eyes off the road for approximately 5 seconds, and there's that picture. Well, checking a text for 5 seconds, if you're traveling at 90 kilometers per hour, you've now traveled the entire length of a football field, blindfolded. 360 feet or 109.1 meters blindfolded. Really important that we think about that. Odds are against you. Well, let's continue on. If you choose to use a phone, you are 4 times more likely to crash than a driver who's focused on the road. If you're texting while driving, you are 6 times more likely to cause an accident and 23 times more likely to get into an accident. guess you'd have to ask yourself, when will the odds not be in your favor? None of us are immune. So here's a mindful tip. Don't think of luck as a defensive driving technique. Decrease your odds and don't drive distracted. I wanted to share some statistics with you, and at the time of this presentation, the 2019 stats were not fully out yet, so these are based on the 2018 National Collision Database statistics. All over Canada, distracted driving laws are in place. All 10 provinces and 3 territories have some sort of distracted driving laws with varying degree of penalty, depends on the jurisdiction. Distracted driving in Canada is responsible for causing accidents every single day. Just look at the numbers. An estimated 80% of collisions that take place have some form of distraction as a contributing factor. 10% of fatal crashes have some form of distracted driving. 18% of injury-causing crashes are a result of distracted driving, and 65% of near crashes or near misses are due to a lack of attention by the driver. Pretty startling statistics. Here's some Ontario numbers for you. So let's think about Ontario. 578 people killed. Inattentive driving rates amongst the highest incident situations. We have the toughest distracted driving laws in the country. So why? Why is distracted driving on the rise? We know it's wrong. We can see and we know from the statistics, and we know that people are dying or being badly hurt. Why do people think it's okay to take someone else's life in their hands? Can't claim that we don't know, and there's lots of consequences out there. And speaking of consequences, well, let's take a look at some of the penalties for distracted driving. Well, as of January 2019, drivers with A to G licenses could face fines, lose demerit points. They could even face a suspension. You could be fined $1,000 to $3,000 and lose 3 to 6 demerit points, depending on whether this is your first, second, or third conviction. Careless driving, if you endanger others because of any kind of distraction, if convicted, you could face fines up to $2,000 and or jail time of up to 6 months and a 2-year license suspension. Criminal Code of Canada, dangerous driving. If that distraction causes death or bodily harm, you could receive a criminal record, a driving prohibition, and a jail term. And the jail term could be substantial. 10 years for bodily harm or 14 years for causing death. And here's a recent Occupational Health and Safety Act example. I'm going to give you the Coles Notes version. The judgment is available online for reading. But on May 18, 2018, there were 2 workers that were charged under Section 28, Section 2, Subsection B of the Occupational Health and Safety Act. Workers operate equipment in a manner that may endanger himself or another worker. So just a brief description of what happened here. This particular incident started as a work refusal. It wasn't resolved. The Ministry of Labor came in and they did their investigation. When they were doing their investigation, they noted clear signage was posted by the employer. There was visible electronic communication boards that prohibited cell phone use in certain areas of the plant. There were policies and procedures and training in place, and the employer had done a really good job of making sure that this was known to employees. There were 2 workers in the plant that were observed with cell phones inside the warehouse manufacturing area. They weren't driving their equipment at the time. They were parked, blocked rows. They were not, however, in a safe designated area. And the cell phone use in this area was considered high hazard, and it could create a distraction. There were pedestrians potentially in the area who may not be aware of what's happening in their surroundings, other traffic. The judgment on this particular case was quite detailed, and again, it is available online for reading, but it can happen. It's not okay to use our cell phones when we're on the job if somebody could be hurt either. And then we have civil liability. Think about that for a second. Increased insurance costs. How many people like to throw their money away? Well, think about this. One ticket for distracted driving could raise your insurance rates by as much as 25%. So let's say you're paying $1,500 per year and you get that one ticket. You may see an increase of $375. So now you're up to $1,875 a year. There could also be repercussions at work. It could be job loss. And there are always personal injury lawyers waiting. So let's talk about distraction denial. Nearly 3 out of 4 Canadian drivers admit to driving distracted. A person is injured from distracted driving accident every 30 minutes. The economic and social consequences of road crashes in Canada is estimated to be $25 billion per year. And again, we know that distracted driving is 100% preventable. So why do people think it's okay? Why do people still drive distracted? Let's take a deeper look at this. I'm a great driver. In fact, I believe that I'm better than most. I'd like you to think about this for a second. Think on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rank yourself as a driver? 6, an 8, a 10? Maybe you think you're a 10 plus. Well, here's an important note for you folks. This is based on your own perception of what good driving is. Maybe it's slow and steady. Maybe it's speedy and aggressive. Maybe it's attentive and aware. You think about this from a statistical average perspective. Statistically, it's not actually possible that we are all better than average drivers. Let's assume that you're better than most. Well, and then we have to think about the other motorist. What about that other motorist? He or she is probably not as good as you are, right? Well, that means that they could cause an accident and you might have to react quickly. From a mindful driving tip, good drivers practice situational awareness and dynamic hazard assessment. Their eyes are on task. They're surrounding themselves with space. They're looking far ahead and they're prepared and ready to respond. Talk about complacency. Well, we look to Webster's dictionary and we can look for 2 definitions here. A feeling of being satisfied with how things are and not wanting to try to make them better. Self-satisfaction, especially when accompanied by unawareness of the actual dangers or deficiencies. Autopilot. Have you ever arrived home from a hard day at work and all of a sudden you realize that you don't even recall anything about your drive home? You don't remember passing the school or the corner store. You don't remember stopping at that light. Well, there's 2 explanations. One explanation is that you really were aware and you just forgot. The other one, though, is that you were totally zoned out, totally oblivious to the hazards around you. Recent studies conclude that seasoned drivers, and seasoned driver is those with 5 years of experience, begin to forget just how dangerous driving can be. And as a result, those drivers feel like it might be okay to send a quick text, make a phone call, or groom themselves in the mirror. They don't look at their behavior as posing a risk to other drivers or putting themselves in danger. Researchers say, though, we're really lucky because researchers say that combating complacent driving is possible with just a few simple actions. Simply by being more aware that we're complacent or we could be prone to complacency is an important aspect of warding off complacent driving. Changing up or altering those routines. Take a different way home. Take a different way to work. Take a different route to the store or dropping the kids off at their activities. And set yourself a goal and practice it. And it might be something like, today I'm going to focus on looking far ahead. Or today I'm going to surround myself with space. Practice these goals, refocus your driving, and avoid complacency. You might even notice that someone texting is texting and driving beside you. You might decide that you're now going to keep a greater distance between your car and their vehicle on the road. Or you might just get really annoyed because that driver is taking your life in their hands and they don't have the right to do that. Multitasking. I'm great at multitasking. Actually, I think I am pretty good at multitasking. But people think they can multitask. Well, our brains do not multitask, and this is scientifically proven. And I just want you to try a little activity here with me. So I'm going to have our panelist again. We're going to pick on Gabby again, and we're going to have Gabby do an activity for us. So we all know our alphabets, our ABCs, and we can all count to 10. This is preschool stuff. We learned this when we were very young. Now what we're going to have Gabby do for us this morning is we're going to have Gabby alternate between the letter and the number, and just as A1, B2, and so on, all the way to J. We're going to give Gabby a moment to do this, and then we're going to ask her to tell us what happened when she was performing this activity. So go ahead, Gabby, if you could start, please, that would be great.
All right, I'll do this in my head. Hmm.
What
So
happened, Gabby? What happened when you were trying to do the numbers and the letters?
it's interesting. It didn't take very long before I lost track and forgot where I was with the numbers. So I think I got to about F, and then yeah, I had gotten distracted.
Okay, so what's happening to Gabby as she's performing this very simple activity? This is her brain trying to multitask. Okay, so I'd encourage you to do this activity at home. If you followed along, try it again. Share this activity with your young teen drivers. Driving itself, folks, if we think about driving, driving itself incorporates many tasks. And as we become more proficient at driving, our driving becomes automatic. Our muscle memory, think about muscle memory, takes over. And to put this into perspective, we automatically, when we're driving, we turn the steering wheel, we operate the car's pedals, we activate our turn signals, we control our speed, and we alter our course. We navigate hills, corners, we brake, we steer simultaneously. Now add in a bunch of other distractions like talking on the phone, texting, perhaps eating, or programming that GPS. Well, it's only a matter of time before something happens. A near miss, a collision, an injury, or death. Just remember that a multitasking driver may fail to see up to 50% of the available information in the driving environment. You may look but not actually see what's happening. So here's a mindful tips for you. The only task you should be performing behind the wheel is driving. Always choose to dedicate your entire attention to driving and arriving safe to your destination. Traffic lights. I'm stationary at a traffic light. I can check my phone or send a text message. I'm not driving. I just want to read you a little scenario here, folks, and I'd like you to think about this. Hey, honey, it's me. I hope you're having a great day. Please make sure that you pack the kids' lunches. Oh, I put a pot roast on in the slow cooker. We need to be at the rink tonight by 6 p.m. And I cannot wait to get away this weekend. It's been such a tough week. Oh, by the way, I won't be joining you at the rink tonight. And can you give your mom a call and see if she can go with you this weekend? Something's come up. I've been hit by a distracted driver. He drove right through the red light. I'll be in surgery for the next 8 hours. They don't think that they can save my leg, and my arm is crushed. Who knew this morning would change my life forever? That someone would take my life in their hands. I wonder if that text was really that important. Intersections are dangerous places, folks. Another driver driving through a red light, pedestrians, heavy traffic pattern changes, lane closures, perhaps the lights aren't working, there could be ongoing maintenance. Imagine that you're sitting at an intersection. Close your eyes for 5 seconds. Now drive right into that intersection. How did that feel? Well, hopefully it didn't feel very good. You see, it takes time to develop situational awareness and react safely to what's happening at that intersection. It takes 27 seconds for your brain to refocus. To put things into perspective, that accident scenario I just read you was 30 seconds. Mindful driving tips. If self-control does not work, turn your phone off. Put the phone in your glove box. Engage the automatic do not disturb while driving feature. Or find a safe place, pull over, and check your device. And if you lack self-control, put that device in the trunk if you must. Hands-free. Well, it's not your brains that are doing the thinking. It's not your hands that are doing the thinking, it's your brain. When you're listening or speaking on the phone, the brain's ability to process moving images decreases by up to one-third. A study conducted by Queensland University of Technology showed that the reaction time of drivers who used a hands-free or handheld device were 40% slower than those who were not distracted. The study took into account a 40-kilometer-per-hour travel speed and drivers using their hands-free technology. Researchers said that accounted for a delayed response distance of 11 meters, or approximately 36 feet. This study suggests that the increased brain power required to have a phone conversation can affect the driver's visual scanning. There's also increased evidence out there that drivers using their hands-free devices make more errors, running through a red light, not signaling when changing lanes. Mindful tips from this perspective: some distractions are not illegal, but they can still have serious consequences. Avoid potential consequences, but keep your mind on that task of driving. Be cautious. Acknowledge that the devices are a form of distraction and that you are placing yourself at higher risk of collision. And again, there's that reminder, pull over to make a call or send a text. It's just not worth it. Business productivity. People can use driving time to catch up. You can save time. You can eat on the run. You can go to that drive-through, grab that burger, grab that coffee. There's also feeding our connectivity cravings, or potentially we have a fear of missing out on something. Well, we have perceived value equals the perceived benefits minus the perceived price. And this is pretty simple. The price could be your life. Mindful tip, think about this. How productive will you be if you're in an accident? Or worse, you're dead. There is nothing that is so urgent or so important that it cannot be done safely. Please don't become a statistic. The technology trap. Studies have shown that drivers are more likely to use their devices if they're built in to their vehicle. Okay? And there's a thought process that goes along with this. If they're in my car, they must be safe. I'd pose a question to you and ask, well, they're convenient, but are they tested and regulated for your safety? So here's a participant challenge for you. Post-webinar, what I'd like you to do is check your owner's manual. See if your communication, navigation, and entertainment systems are actually listed as a safety device. You may find that they're not actually listed or tested for driver safety. And if they are, then make sure you acquaint yourself with the safe operating instructions and you know how to use them. Use caution when you're using these devices and recognize that using these devices increases the cognitive workload that you're under. Okay? This can create distractions, and those distractions can lead to a collision. It was just a quick call. It was a short trip. It was just one drink. It was just a picture. It was just an email. It was just a glance. It was just one text. It was just a bite. It was just a sip. Just is all. We can make excuses for our behavior, but remember, it just takes a second to change your life forever. I had a friend who didn't make it home last night. He went out on the town and had himself a time. When it was time to leave, he was much too tight. He climbed behind the wheel, and it cost him his life. He thought he knew better and the odds he could beat. He said, "I'll make it all right. Don't you worry for me." In 1994, country singer Charlie Major wrote a song called "It Can't Happen to Me." This song reached #1 on the country charts. The rest of the lyrics go on to say, it can't happen to me. I've got an angel watching over me. It can't happen to me. It's always someone else, you see. It can't happen to me. No one is invincible, and it can happen to you. And if you'd like to Google this song post webinar, you can go onto YouTube and you'll see 183 comments about this song, and many of those comments are tributes. Tributes to someone who's no longer with us. Tributes to someone who's lost their life. Just remember, it can happen to you. Choices. Make good choices. Well, motorists make a choice to partake in other activities while they're driving. As a driver, we make a choice to send a text. We make choices to check those messages at a red light. We make choices not to follow the rules of the road or drive according to the rules of the road. We make a choice to eat, groom ourselves, program our GPS, reach for a dropped object. We make a choice to drive when we're not in the right frame of mind. Pretty simple here. There's good choices and there's bad choices. Your mindful tip: don't pay attention to anything else other than the task of driving. There's that big word, task of driving. And think about safe choices. Safe choices, they are yours to make. Well, you just can't seem to put it down? Many forms of distracted driving. However, we know that cell phone use is a significant distraction contributor. Okay? And think about it like this: our connectivity cravings are actually killing us. Okay? If you don't have enough willpower, there's apps out there. I'll share a couple of these with you. So the Apple iOS 11, this latest operating system includes a do not disturb while driving mode. It can block the notification of incoming calls and texts when your iPhone senses driving motion or is connected to a car via Bluetooth. It doesn't block the other functions that work through Apple CarPlay systems such as music and navigation. The Do Not Disturb Driver feature can automatically send a text replying that says you're driving and you will reply later. Phone calls are also allowed if the iPhone is connected via Bluetooth. I'm going to share two more here with you as well. There's a great app out there. It's available for iOS and Android. It's called Flipped. If you find that you need a more aggressive approach to unplugging, Flipped is the app for you. Flipped allows you to lock your phone for a set period of time, and once you do, there's no going back. Even resetting your phone won't disable that app, so it's impossible for you to cheat. Flipped can also be used to remotely, and you can flip off one user from another user's device. This is helpful for teams that may want to keep each other on point. Okay? And then there's another app that I want to share with you, and this is great for families as well, and it's called the Lifesaver app. Lifesaver uses the GPS monitoring technology and reward system to help drivers break dangerous distracted driving habits. The app blocks the ability to use your phone while driving, and it automatically lets loved ones know or your company know that you've arrived safely at your destination. This app is great for families as well because the app actually features a driver portal, but a dashboard for parents to help guide their teens on their journey to developing those responsible driving habits. Parents can actually set up rewards for their children when they demonstrate safe driving behaviors. Additionally, the Lifesaver app, again, it can be used for commercial fleet managers to monitor their drivers' behavior on the job. So there's lots of them out there, folks. I would encourage you to research them, but there's lots of apps out there. Find what's best for you. Uh, think about your safe driving app. If you see the mindful tips there, downloading a safe driving app may be a big step towards driving without distraction. You can use your phone as a safety tool and help yourself stay collision free. Probably a great opportunity as well because we have a lot of people, calling in from work, but let's talk about some work-related cell phone driving practices. So it's really important that, when we talk about risk assessments, a word on risk assessments, Conducting hazard and risk assessments are foundational to injury prevention. Why I say this is because if we don't conduct the proper risk assessments, how do we know what controls we need to put in place? What measures do we need to take to make sure that people have the right tools, training, education, everything to do their job safely? Okay, how do we know what those risks are? So once we've done those risk assessments, we then, from those risk assessments, we evaluate the training needs. We implement our policies and procedures. A few that come to mind when you're thinking about, motor vehicle prevention or driving policies, zero tolerance for distracted driving, technology apps and how they're used and what will be used, fleet management and telematics. We need to provide training and we need to reinforce those learnings frequently. We're not one and done here. Okay? As part of that training, we need to include worker acknowledgement that they have read and understand these policies and procedures. Just because we've done the training, it might be something that we want to make sure that we're keeping top of mind. We can use posters, visual reminders, toolbox talks. We can have safety shares, all things to make sure that we're refocusing people's minds on that task of driving and keeping their learnings top of mind. We need to also celebrate success. And so that's really important when people love recognition and when we're seeing really good results, we need to celebrate that. We need to make sure that we're evaluating drivers, monitoring for compliance with our policies and our procedures and certainly the rules of the road. And we need to make sure we're enforcing those rules. It's very important that we also have clear incident reporting and investigation processes in place. And this should also include near misses. Those near misses are a gift. We can learn from them. We can put measures in place before something happens. And then we need to maintain documentation and records of all of the above. And just a reminder here, think about your policies and procedures and think about how quickly technology changes rapidly and quickly. So we need to make sure that we're regularly reviewing our policies and procedures, make sure that they're current and they're not in line with the horse and buggy days. So they're, again, not one and done. So what does mindful driving mean? Well, it means reflection on one's behaviors. We need to be able to see our own blind spots and look in the brutal mirror of truth. It means not judging others. Remember that 3 out of 4 Canadians admit to driving distracted. Pretty startling. We need to appreciate and observe our surroundings. We need to be situationally aware and be in the moment. We need to expect the unexpected and remain calm and composed. As we've gone through this presentation today, it's important that if you see something in the presentation you want to work on, commit to that change. Have a genuine concern for your safety and the safety of others. Avoid distraction denial, and we've gone through some of that today, but I'd encourage you, if you found that as we were going through it, you thought, geez, I've done that, or I know somebody that does that, share this information, avoid distraction denial, and engage your mind and body in the task of driving. Be a mindful driver. Our attitude, the way a person views something or tends to behave towards it. Our behavior, this is the way a person acts or reacts. Well, folks, we are in control of our attitude, our behaviors, and our choices. So please make safe choices. Share the message because we all share the roads. And remember that distracted driving is unacceptable and it's 100% preventable. Various resources are available. So I've got some listed in the presentation. So Workplace Safety North, the Ministry of Transportation, National Safety Council, certainly the Canadian Automobile Association, lots of good information out there. And I'd like to also share some acknowledgements as I put together this presentation. There's a slide in here showing some of the places that I gathered and accessed data and got some information from. And then at the end of our presentation today, we'd just really like to thank you for your time. On behalf of Workplace Safety North, we encourage you to share this presentation and your distracted driving prevention measures. WSN specialists are also available to assist with risk assessment and assist with developing motor vehicle incident prevention programs and or providing training and awareness sessions. Thank you for your time.